Studies show that 3 to 4 million children between the ages of 3 and 17 are at risk of exposure to domestic violence each year. How a young girl was treated by her father, and also how her father treated her mother, will have a lasting impact on how a woman grows to view men. For years, Alisha hid her marks and bruises from her friends and teachers, and having had enough of the emotional and physical abuse she endured from her father, she moved out of his home the day after she graduated from high school. Now in her mid-30s, we look back at how the childhood abuse influenced her relationships, and the evidence is as clear as day. Welcome to the show, Alisha.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, your story is very interesting because I think it shows us how history repeats itself. So people can see themselves in your story, and also people can be careful or cautious of what they do in front of their kids. You moved out of your father's house.
Yes.
The day after you graduated.
Yes.
Because you were enduring a lot of abuse from your father.
Yes.
Was it all just physical abuse?
It was physical and verbal. He would tell me things I really didn't like to hear, like I'm gonna give you enough rope to hang yourself, and just say things that I didn't really understand, and he wouldn't give me any explanation, no communication. He would just say it and then disappear.
So the day after graduation, you move out. Do you move in with your boyfriend, or you move in yourself?
I moved in with my boyfriend because he had his own place at the age of 18, 17. He had his own place. He left his mother at a young age. That's the father of my first child today.
Okay.
So we had a very strong connection, although it was kind of an unhealthy relationship at times.
Unhealthy in what way?
He was abusive as well, physically.
He was physically abusive. Now, when you say abusive, what kind of stuff did he do?
Well, I remember one instance, like I cooked for him but then he invited his brother and cousins and everybody over, and I'm like, okay, they ate all the food. I'm thinking, okay, I'll have food to bring to work and everything. And we were arguing about that, and like the argument turned into physical. And all I know is like I just felt something across my face, and I just heard ringing right after, like ringing in my ear, because I was just struck so hard that I heard ringing in my ear. You know, that was the first time.
What did he hit you with?
His hand, like an open hand. And then the second time was like, I confronted him about my car, because I had a brand new car, not used or anything. My first car was brand new that I got myself. And I noticed at night, like in the morning, I would wake up, get ready for work. So I kept noticing little things in my car, like not how I left it. So I confronted him, and I'm like, you know, your brother, who lived with us at the time, is taking my car at night. So we were arguing about that, and what struck a nerve to him was that I called his brother a thief, because I felt like he was stealing my car. He didn't ask permission. He doesn't take part in making car payments or insurance payments or putting gas. So I'm like, your brother's stealing my car. As soon as I said that word, it got physical. He just jumped on me and just started getting very violent. And he went to the kitchen to get a kitchen utensil, a knife. And at that time, when he came back to the room, his brother walked in the door in the nick of time. I was so happy to see him.
He had a knife in his hand.
Yes. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take my son and leave, go in my car and leave. I guess he was under the impression I was going to call the police or whatever, which I wasn't, because I was afraid for the welfare of our child, and it would reflect bad on me. So I didn't. I kept that to myself and just went to my grandmother and let her know what I was going through. And she was giving me personal advice, and she was recalling the things that happened between my father and I.
Yeah.
And she said that, I remember these words too, that when my father did it to me, abused me, and I went to my grandmother, she said, you can't do it to him. The first time she told him, you can't do that to her, because any man I find, that's what I'm going to accept. They will do that to me. And sure enough, it did happen. And he cried. I never seen my father cry when she said that. He cried like a baby, weeping and bawling and everything like a child. But he did it again. You know, I think he was afraid of me becoming a woman. So that's why he just got so hysterical. So, I don't know.
But like any abuser out there, like I've learned through the other stories that I've done, people will apologize, and then and it will be good for 2 weeks or 2 months, and then all of a sudden they'll do it again. So whether it's your father or your boyfriend or your husband, they'll apologize to you, and then they'll turn around and they'll do it again after a few months. So how did you end that relationship with your first boyfriend?
Basically, I left. I relocated to Florida when I got pregnant. Is when I really separated from him because of the distance between us. He was in New York, and I came to Florida for a better life.
So you ended that relationship. Did you get into a second relationship in Florida?
Yeah, I found someone, but then I ended up leaving them and went back to New York for another.
And how was that relationship with the second person?
It was good. I think I was the problem in the whole relationship because of my attitude towards life and people. It affected my relationship for a while. It affected my life for a while until I got help professionally and realized I have a problem. Nobody had to tell me. I knew I had a problem and I wanted help. No one in my family ever got professional help. I was the first person. And, you know, I was proud of it because I see my father had a problem. My mother had a problem. I am having a problem. So I went and, you know, tried to nip it in the bud so history could stop repeating itself.
Did you come from one of those families where people think that if you're getting help, you're crazy?
Yeah. Oh, my family is from the islands. My father's Jamaican, my mother's Trinidadian. And I knew that's the first thing they say. First thing. And I really didn't care.
Right. You did the right thing.
I let them be kids.
After being in New York in shelters for 3 or 4 years, you then moved back to Florida.
Yes.
And do you move in on your own? Do you have a friend? Where are you staying?
I met someone in New York, fell in love with him actually through the parks department. You know, someone very tall, 6'5", handsome, brown skin and everything.
You
And
got your tall, dark, and handsome.
yes, I thought that was the one. Like I thought we were gonna get married and everything. What we did do was save our money and our income tax money, and we left and came to Florida together and got a nice apartment together.
And how did that go? How did that relationship go?
That was okay because he couldn't find a job as fast as I could. You know, I found a job right away, but I was pushing him to get a job, so I was helping him, motivating him. So while he was staying home, in the event of me working one night, he brought another female in my home, our home, in the front of my children. You know, so that didn't go too well because my children called me from work. And when I got home and I saw that the woman left, but he was there, and we got into a little altercation. And at that time, I did call 911 because only reason was because he was chasing around my son all outside around the neighborhood, I guess, so my son wouldn't call me and tell me what was going on. And he was never an abusive person.
What was he planning on doing?
I don't know. He wasn't abusive or a violent person ever. So for me to hear that he's chasing around my son, and then when he finally got my son said, oh, he held me around my neck, around my collar, and was shaking me. And I'm like, that didn't sound like him, but you know, he was drinking. I know he was smoking. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to make any excuses up for anyone because wrong is wrong. So I did call the police because I don't want anyone to harm my children. It's my responsibility to be the advocate for my kids. Even if I don't advocate for myself, I'm going to advocate for my kids. So I called the police and locked him up. So he got locked up in Florida knowing no one for 60 days.
So did that end that relationship?
Yeah, it did. I had a lot of feelings for him, but it ended. He had to go back to New York because I put him through the system. He couldn't come back to live with me or else I'd lose my kids. And I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. So we ended the relationship.
Now, but you had another boyfriend who pulled another knife on you and stabbed you.
Yeah, that was like a little bit before I left New York in the shelter system. I always had my own apartment, so I let him come and live with me until I see he was taking advantage of the situation, not contributing anything, you know, always wanting to drive my car, getting in an accident in my car, you know, so he was kind of bringing me down, not kind of, but he was bringing me down a lot. And what really triggered him to become very violent one day was when I said, okay, we're gonna break up. You know, he saw that one of his friends actually was trying to come on to me, and I told him that. I admitted to him, I'm like, your friend is trying to approach me, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. So then when we were breaking up, he was like, oh, I bet you want my friend. I bet you want my friend. So that's when he got very violent and, you know, got a knife and was like, well, if you don't tell me what happened, today is going to be your last day. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. Like, I didn't know what to do. I stayed there. He had me in a headlock, you know, in my room. And after just a few minutes of the struggle, like, I got tired and out of breath and I didn't want to fight anymore. And he took me somewhere and was like, well, I'm going to sacrifice you on the altar Oh,
But did he cut you? Did he stab?
Yeah, he did. He did. He stabbed me here, 7 times, burned me with cigarettes, and all of that. Like, I endured about an hour and a half of just torture, because he wanted to know whether or not me and his friend had any relations.
So you were bleeding and...
Yeah.
And where were
I
your
felt my
kids?
hand going numb. They were outside. They weren't in the house. They were not in the house at all. They were outside. So they didn't know
So
what
he's
was
joking
going
you.
Mhm.
He's cutting you.
Mhm.
He's burning you with cigarettes.
Mhm.
His your arm's going numb.
Yeah, he's telling me call my mother and tell her you're gonna die.
He's trying to kill you, basically.
Mhm.
And what are you thinking?
I was just like in my head, I'm like, can you feel your hand? Can you feel, like, are you know, like, can I feel everything? I'm like, yeah, I could feel everything, but I felt like a tingling and numbness in my hand. So I'm like, do you feel like you're dying? And I'm like, no, I'm talking to myself in my head. I'm like, I'm not dying. And I'm like, I'm not going to, because I have these kids to raise, so I have to be strong. So
Did
if
you call the police?
No, I did not. I didn't have a chance to either. He was like, well, call your mom and tell her you're going to die. Even if he gave me the phone to do that, I wasn't going to do that, because
Right.
her and I didn't have a good relationship. What also got him mad was when he had tried to attack me, I was trying to push him and fight back, and I broke in the event of like me fighting back, I broke one of his beads, because he wore these little plastic beads around his neck, and he used to tell me, oh, it represents saints, a religion he used to go through, I didn't never understood it, but he was very into it and believed strongly into these beads had some type of spiritual power or whatever. And one of the beads broke. He was like, oh, that bead broke, I'm gonna have to kill you. And that's why he did everything he did. And then he took me to the lady that wears all white, but she looked at him and was like, you're crazy, so she wouldn't really want no part of that. But that's when I just took off. I didn't want to hear nothing else, see nothing else, and I didn't want him to come back in the car, so I left.
Did that end that relationship, the whole experience?
No, it
Oh,
didn't.
you got
It
back
didn't.
with him?
Yeah, it took about 6 months though
After the
of a
experience?
separation. Yeah, we separated and stuff, but I had so much feelings for him, like, a lot of feelings. When you're in
And
love with a person.
Stabbing doesn't end it?
No, no, it separated us for a while, but we did get back together because I had a lot of feelings for him. And like I said, I didn't have a relationship. I didn't have a father relationship. So like the relationships I had other than that was like very deep. Like it meant a lot to me.
Right.
And hard to get away from. So we got back together about 6 or 7 months later, but it only lasted for probably 3 months. Until I see that other people was getting violent with him, that's when I said, okay, well, I better leave before I'm next.
But isn't it ironic that you saw him getting violent with somebody else and that rang a bell to you to stop dating him, but when he was violent with you, so that, I guess that was a turning point.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things here that have happened. Your dad abused you physically, and you end up dating guys that abused you, but your mother obviously was not available, so you didn't have a relationship with her. But you witnessed your mother try to commit suicide?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was about 5 or 6. But she was very unhappy. I don't know what she was going through. She was very unhappy.
Now you happen to be there while she's trying to kill herself. Then you turn around though when you're older, and you also try to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Did you think that's the behavior obviously that you learned from your mother? Or what was it that pushed you to that point?
I don't really think it's the behavior I learned from my mother. I just think I was in a dark place, and I think I was very depressed, and also I was on medications at the time. Doctors were trying to put me on different medications because of the drugs I was on. They thought I was bipolar, which I wasn't. I had to fight that and be like, the medications you're putting me on is making me feel suicidal.
Based on the lack of relationship you had with your mother, how do you try to mother your children differently to not be exactly what you did to you?
I communicate with them a lot. I've read lots of books. I've read lots of articles on the internet about psychology. I've sought professional help as well. And I've learned my lesson over and over again of making these mistakes.
Why did you want to tell your story? Why did you want to share your story and your life experience?
Going through my dark places in life, like now it's been years, and I'm free from all those evil things, negative things, and thoughts and people. I would like to help somebody out there, because a lot of times when I was in my dark places and thoughts, I would sit down and watch TV or internet videos of people, positive videos, positive people, and that strengthened me to get up out the house. And isolating myself, I used to get up out the house and go to church sometimes, and that triggered me to do something positive, you know. So maybe this will trigger someone to do something positive with their self.
Now, you're older and wiser now. What would you tell your 21-year-old self if you could meet her today?
Oh, I would have went to a shelter and get out if I knew that I didn't have mommy's help and daddy's help, and if I wasn't doing so good myself. I would have went to a shelter, because that actually is a good idea. It may not be fancy, but sometimes you don't need fancy. You just need to be safe.
So when you're in the midst of all the craziness you were going through, would you have envisioned where you are today?
Never.
Where your life would be where you are for you
Never.
and your children?
Never. I didn't think I was going to make it, and I didn't see myself as a mother of big kids. Never.
And what kind of relationship are you in today?
Relationship-wise, I'm in a healthy relationship with an older guy. He's like 56. He treats me like a queen. He helps me to better myself. I have an opportunity to go to school. I have an opportunity to work in peace. I have an opportunity to raise my kids, let them go to whatever school they want.
And you have a healthy and positive role model for your kids. Do you have any sons?
I have one son.
You have one son. And what people don't understand is if you have a bad role model for your sons and daughters, you're only creating the cycle, which means when they grow up, they'll grow up to do the exact same thing that they're watching you do as their parent. What do you think helped you realize and make different choices to attract a different person in your life? Because if you think about it, the last 4 guys that you dated who were not working, that were beating you and stabbing you, and it's the same person. They're just one's 6 foot something tall, dark and handsome, and the other one is 21 years old, but it's the same person. What do you think you did differently this time to attract a different person in your life?
I stopped caring about what people think. I don't need the pretty boy or, you know, this type of guy. Like, if I'm dating an older person, they may not be beautiful on the outside, but they're beautiful on the inside. They're loving, they're compassionate, they're successful, they're stable. You know, at the time, I used to date people my age, trying to impress my friends, trying to impress my family.
And listen, and there are young people out there who are responsible.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. I'm sure there is. I haven't been fortunate.
Not bashing on them, all the young guys.
I haven't been fortunate enough to find someone like that, because if I did find someone who is like good in one area, they're just lacking in something that I didn't need. I needed someone who was good across the board. That's how I was thinking, and that's what I did. And that helped me a lot.
And where is the relationship with your parents today?
My father, we really don't talk. I tried calling him last year, and you know, it's still the same. He's not a communicating person. He doesn't help me do anything. My mother, she's the same person. She's just a judgmental person. So I just stopped trying to communicate with them, because that brings me into a depression. You know, and although I'm not bipolar, I do have chronic depression because of the things I've been through in life. So I just stay away from stuff that triggers me to be depressed. Like my family trying to live up to their standards, you know, it doesn't help me. So I stay away from them. I let them be happy and I be happy.
I like to ask people this question. But in life, there's always a song that connects in different stages in your life and you feel like it's your theme song. What would you say is your theme song? That you listen to and you're like, oh yeah, that's me. It's my soundtrack.
Oh, there was this reggae song. It always sticks in my head. The words of the song, like I always sing that when I feel down. The words say, everybody's calling your name, watching every move that you make. That is just a part of life games. And I can't remember the rest of the song, but a reggae song.
What's the name of the
I think
song?
by Wayne Wonder or somebody. You can't listen to lies that are true and bring you down. That's the words of the song.
Like, that's the song that keeps you out of the going back to the dark.
Yeah, do you. Do you.
You can only do you. You can't do anybody else. Because they're doing them.
Oh yeah, at the end of the day.
You can only do the best you that you can do, because they're doing the best them that they can do. Listen, I really thank you for telling your story, because I think one of the most important things is somebody who's watching, somebody who's in the situation you're in today, can hear the same thing from other people who are not in it and they don't feel, or it doesn't connect to them. But I think when somebody hears it, from somebody who's walked in their shoes, it connects better, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to tell your story.
Absolutely.
So I thank you, Alisha, so much.
Thank you
so much for coming, and we wish you and your kids nothing but the best.
Thank you.
While it may be true that not all women who had abusive or dysfunctional childhoods attract abusive partners, studies have shown that early experiences of abuse create a higher tolerance and acceptance for abuse. Alisha's story tells us something powerful about how our childhood can influence who we are. Her story might serve to make you aware that how you treat each other in front of your children will affect their future. Thank you for watching You Talk on YouTube.